I'm Adrienne Enns, and I welcome you to the Intention Sessions podcast. I want to inspire our most intentional living. In each episode, we'll talk to remarkable individuals who will share their authentic journeys and their insights with us. They're going to remind us that life's complexities can be our greatest teachers, and that intentional living can be expressed in an infinite number of ways. I hope you find some inspiration for your most intentional life right here. Today on the podcast, I am very excited to introduce you to Felecia Etienne. She is a high-performance success coach and the founder and CEO of Level Up and Thrive Coaching and Consulting. She helps overwhelmed and stressed out leaders maximize their time, energy, and productivity. Felecia holds an MBA and has 2 decades of experience working with Fortune 500 finance companies. She's coached over 1,500 high-performing leaders, executives, and business owners. But she's not stopping there. With a goal of empowering 500,000, Felecia is on a mission to help burnt-out business owners reclaim their power while creating a profitable legacy. Her proven strategies, tools, and business acumen can help anyone level up their life and business on their own terms. Felecia and I met when we had an opportunity. Well, I had an opportunity to participate in this amazing Level Up and Thrive Summit she did. She is awesome energy, full of wisdom. And Felecia, I'm so happy to have you here to share with our listeners.
Adrienne, I'm so excited to be here. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share and just to connect with you again. It was such a fun conversation.
Oh, it's amazing. So as I mentioned to you, I specifically edited your bio. So I do want to dive into stress and burnout and strategies and legacy and all of that stuff. But you have this raw, beautiful story of when you sort of had to relook things in your own life. And I'd really love to start there, if you could share that with us.
Sure. So that's interesting that you edited my bio. I do appreciate you doing that, Adrienne. So
what's more interesting coming from you than from me?
I love it.
You know, like let's hear it in your words, your voice.
So just like I think a lot of your podcast listeners that have things that happen in their life, and sometimes you think your life is perfect, right? Like for me, I thought I was like the ultimate badass because I had the dream job that folks would say, wow, you made it, right? You had a 6-figure plus job. I was traveling around the US, I had the 2 kids, I had a husband, all the things that just seems to be right. But what folks didn't realize is that under all that facade, I was just under so much stress. I was trying to prove myself to everyone around me. That worthiness conversation was one that I grew up with. And that continue with me all throughout my career. I felt like I always need to do more, right? Be more and show up more than everyone else just to have a seat at the table. And that kind of took a toll where I was traveling just like I always do, right? Traveling on business. I was in Dallas, Texas at the time. Just like any other presentation, jumped on stage, did what I had to do. But what the audience didn't realize, while I was on stage, I felt a pain. But I pushed through just the way I've always done. Just keep going.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized that that's whisper voice that sometimes we have and then we just push back. It was yelling at the point, like, you need to go and get this checked out. You have a flight tomorrow, Felecia. Go check this out. I couldn't ignore her.
Yes.
I pushed her down. I couldn't ignore her. And I told my leader at the time, I said, I need to go to the hospital. I need to just go get this checked out. And I remember her being a little frantic. She's like, oh my God, what hospital? Because we're in a strange place. This is not our territory. We're here to do a job. And I was like, no, don't worry. Like, again, the person who needs to comfort everyone else. I was like, don't worry. I already researched it. Because that voice told me, go get your shit together, research it. and go get, so I already researched what hospitals were in the area, and I found out, and she's like, oh, should we go how do we get there? And I was like, don't worry, we can just, they can drop us there. And she's like, is no rush? I'm like, no, it's okay. Even though I was feeling it, I still felt the need to take care of people around me and put myself in the back burner there. So just to, long story short, we got there, the doctors were trying to figure out what was going on. And I did get a clean bill of, just to get on a flight, right? They said, you know what, you're good to go. Just go straight to your doctor as soon as you get back home. But that little voice, Adrienne, was whispering again, get out of bed, because they put me on strict bed rest. I couldn't move, right? Catheter, everything. And it was like, no, you need to get out of this bed. You need to walk around this room. You need to move. And when I moved, all hell broke loose. That's when, everything kind of shifted. The doctors all rushed all back in, trying to figure out what was wrong. And I'm lying there thinking to myself, how did I get here? But the reality, Adrienne, is I was just overworked, burnt out. I was trying to do everything and just trying to live a facade that wasn't even real.
Yeah.
And now I'm here lying in a hospital bed, right, being exposed and at risk of losing my child. I was 22 weeks pregnant at the time. So,
okay.
Yeah. So that's when we had another choice, like, because everyone was shouting and like, oh, you got to make a decision. You got to be not selfish. And the selfish, selfless thing to do is to allow us to save your life and not to resuscitate or try to save the child, because most likely at this stage, it probably would be born disabled, it'll have a poor quality of life, and there's not much. And the reality is that we can still, go through the stage of letting the pregnancy go at this point, right? You still have the rights to do whatever you have the rights to do. So, and imagine that you lying there all alone and all these things are happening and you're like, how did you get here? So, yeah. So that's when I had that realization that things had to change. I can't continue down this path, because I don't even know if I was going to make it down this path, to be honest, in that moment, right? They were rolling me. I didn't realize if I was going to make it, but that's when things shifted for me. And I would say the shift didn't happen, Adrienne, like right away.
Yes.
Right? You would think that, oh my God, you just got hit with this happening in your life, you're going to instantly change. That is not how we are created. We are human beings. We still have those patterns that we run. So I kept on running it until another pivotal moment happened. And this one shook me to the core. And that's when everything changed. And I had a lot of lessons that happened there that I learned.
Yeah, I'm just listening to you, and I really identify with this because, same set of circumstances. I ended up in a rehab bed instead of a hospital bed, but your body will really revolt until you pay attention, and it gets louder and louder. So, what were some of the big realizations for you?
So some of the big realizations for me happened, just to take you into a moment, was while we were going through this whole long stay, relocating, all of this, I had the moment to start to touch hold my baby, skin to skin. And they've been working up to this. So she now got a little bigger, still tiny, still intubated, all of this. And finally, we got into a position there. And then the machines went crazy, Adrienne. The doctors rushed in. There wasn't any more heartbeat. And they pushed me out of the room and I stood in the hallway. And that's the first time, Adrienne, I would say in my life, maybe even until I was younger, that I broke down.
Yeah.
I cried. I just it was unconsolable cry. That ugly, just like, oh.
Very well.
And
yes.
And a nurse walked up to me and she was like, I've never seen you this way. I've never seen this side of you. And I was crying and she was trying to talk to me. And then I was looking in the room and I couldn't even talk what was going on. And the message she gave to me is what allowed me to kind of change my lens and change my perspective. Because at that moment, I was still holding things in, but also blaming others around me and complaining, right? And saying, why me and why we're going through this? I did everything I was supposed to, that blaming, complaining,
Yes, very
and
well.
being in that
Very
moment.
well. I'm nodding my head, but you can't see, but yes. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
I was living there. So while I was crying and she was trying to console me, I was still pushing back in that sense. Like, why are we going through this? Why she's going through that? All that stuff. And then she shared something with me. She said, I need you to take a moment and I need you to look around. I know it's tough when you're going through this because we're never in a NICU, neonatal care unit, right? We can't tell you everything is going to be great because it's uncertain.
Yeah.
Every single baby in here is on a journey. And we can't tell you that journey is going to be easy, it's going to be fast, it's going to be quick, or it's not going to be messy, because it will be messy. But what is important to realize is that everyone in here is also on a shared experience. Every one of folks in here that's in other rooms are going through something. It may not be like you, but they're going through it. And she kind of helped me to change my perspective because she talked about that. And I never noticed this, Adrienne. And you see, when you're in your own zone and you don't notice things. She said, take a look down the hallway. What do you see? And I saw white roses on some of the doors. And she said, do you know what those mean? And, I couldn't even talk. I was just crying.
Yeah.
I said, no, not really. And she explained to me that the white roses means that a child is no longer with us.
Mm.
And what we do in an intensive care unit like this, because a lot of the families are not close by. They may live in rural parts of Texas and they come to us. So we allow them time to spend with their child or wait for other families to say goodbye. So when you look in there, you might see a baby that looks perfect, but that baby may not have kidneys. That baby brainstem may not be fully developed, and we're keeping them alive. So you have to look at the lens from the entire lens, not just yours. And that just struck me to the core.
Yeah.
Because here am I with this very tiny, she was 1.5 pounds, but she was fully developed. I mean, all her organs were what it's supposed to be. She was just massively tiny. And of course, that came with a rocky journey. But look at the other families right now who are saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And that was one of the lessons that stuck me there. And there's so many lessons, but I'm going to stop there for now.
Okay. And so so you have a moment like this, that really does shake you to your core. And then, you have to some extent, re-enter your life, and a very new life, based on everything that's just happened for you. How did you change things just on a day-to-day basis?
I took a deep breath on that one. Again, it was a journey.
Yeah.
It wasn't overnight, but what did happen was, based on what she shared with me, I started to change my lens and start to see things as they are, or not how I imagine them to be. And I start to connect back to the reality of where we are and what's within my control and what's out of my control. I started to get that level of perspective. There's things that needed to shift, that I needed to take care of. First thing that I needed to really work on for myself is my identity. So I had the identity of that corporate executive, but also the identity of a mom that's going to have a perfect pregnancy, right? That's going to be able to take that baby home. And that just got shifted. That is no longer the reality. So when my reality wasn't aligning with what that vision I had for myself, that's why I had all that friction. I know it now, right? Because you can connect the dots looking back, right?
Yeah, of course.
I know it now. That's when I had all the friction. I had all the pain because I was trying, it wasn't aligning. So now I wanted things to go. So that's the first thing I had to work on. It's really getting clear with myself what the new vision is.
Yeah.
What do I get to do versus have to do? Right? So that's a big piece. In life, we get to do some things, right? I get to be there with my child during this pivotal time within her life. And I also get to be there for my other kids and be that harmony that they need and be supportive for them, even though it's from a distance. So that's the first alignment I had to work with myself. Then the other one that I really had to spend some time with, and this is when it comes down to the work you do with intentionality and being really, really centered and present. I had to be present with the wave of emotions I was going through.
Yeah,
And
it's tough.
that's tough,
Yeah,
right?
it's really tough.
But I had to allow the emotions and realize that emotions is part of the healing journey and it's part of the growth.
Yeah.
And it all started like just from being present and seeing how these doctors and nurses work with these micro infants and work with these kids with so many, God bless their heart, challenges. They work together as a unit, right? They're in harmony. One of the doctors shared with me, Adrienne, is like, this is going to be a roller coaster, but guess what? We like when things don't work the way it's supposed to. It's okay, because that is a sign that we need to shift.
Yeah.
So I learned to see the signs and open to it and start to shift. So shift my perspective. If something doesn't work within as she's going through this, it's okay to shift. I used to look at the boards because every day they would update the boards in the rooms, right? What went well, what didn't. If the line went down, then they'll come back and say, okay, we had a drop in this, but this is what this told us. Now, this is what we can do differently. And that's what I incorporated for myself. I said, you need to own this right now. So I went back and said, what can I control? What can I not control? What I can control is what I do in the time that she's in this NICU unit. I can't really hold her. That's the reality. I want to hold her. I can't.
She's
on her own journey.
Feeling.
But she's on her own journey,
Yeah.
and she has the right to be on her journey, to go through those stages. And I don't have the right to put my emotions on there, right? I need the right to control those and find avenues. So what I did, Adrienne, is I went back to my boss, my leader at the time, and I said, okay, this is the situation. And she was like, oh, no, do this. You just had surgery. I said, listen to me, my friend. I need to do this, because this allows me to do something that I'm already great at. And a lot of time when you're going to struggle, you want to find a common thing that would help you just keep on moving.
Yeah.
Right? I said, I need to do this, but I also need to do it my way, which means I need to work on projects that allow me to work remotely. I need to work on projects where there's not like, I'm on other people's deadlines, but people are on my deadlines. So I actually, I think for the first times in my life, step up and use my voice to say, this is what I need, not what other people need.
Yeah.
If you follow my drift.
I follow you.
I follow you. This is what I need. And I need it to look like this. And I also need to, when she gets out of this place, that I get the freedom of spending it with her.
Yes.
Can we make this happen? And I didn't say anything, but it allowed her to go back, and they made it happen. I'm blessed with the company I was working with at the time. They made it happen. But again, I had to use my voice. I had to step up into it and say, what is that going to look like? And I had to step into riding the waves of emotions and understanding that emotions are a gift. We get to feel it because that means we're alive, right?
Yeah.
So think about a heartbeat. I always think about this because when you're in the hospital, you know that machine and you just hear the heartbeat. When you stop hearing it, that's when things flatline. You don't want that sound, right? So
right.
In life, you want to have a little bit of those waves because that means you're alive, Adrienne. That means you have opportunity. But it's up to you to bring the intentionality and the pause into your life, because that's something I had to do and relearn, because like I shared in the beginning, I thought I was a badass. So you know how you learned everything? You know how the morning routines work, right? You have the affirmations, you listen to the podcast, you go to the trainings, right? You do all the things that on the outside, but do you really, really implement it at the level that is needed? I would say for me, at least, no. But when I was going through this, Adrienne, I had to.
Yes.
It was non-negotiable. Otherwise, I would not be able to make it day to day.
Yeah, like that is how we, like what I'm hearing. Yeah, you just really knowing and learning and growing. And when I'm hearing you talking about this, I want to also know, like, I just think this is just such rich, like, emotional intelligence, right? So I have to
Mm.
believe that this really drives how you can help people. Like, I know that you're very accomplished in terms of, your MBA, all of your career experience, but I have to believe that this brings a whole other level to you relating to people who are really burnt out and need to make similar shifts.
No, it's absolutely why I went into what I'm doing.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't tell you that it was intentional. I would tell you I'm accidental entrepreneur. I would use that phrase.
Same. It's just how it happens. I know.
But it's definitely the core of why do what I do, what I do, what I do, right? It's the
Yeah.
passion. It's the story. But it's not one I learned that I didn't have the answers, first of all. So I took time to really invest in myself in the sense of prioritizing myself and knowing and getting really, really crystal clear as to what does Felecia desire? What is the ultimate dream that I have? Not what my mom had, my dad had, my boss has, the next level has, but what is going to create that fulfillment in me? That if that was my last day on earth, it would have been like, I lived the life. I lived a great life. I've lived a legacy. My kids are great. And at that point, God forbid, Adrian, I wasn't ready. Dude, I can I don't even like to go back and think about it
Yeah.
because I truly wasn't living.
Yeah.
I was existing
Yeah.
and looking like I'm living, looking really great
Yeah.
on the outside, right? Very
Yeah. Yes.
accomplished,
Yes.
has all
Yes.
the stuff. Yeah. Check because again, the worthiness, we're not talking about worthiness, but a lot of women, especially women entrepreneurs or women professionals who are, climbing that career ladder, there's an underlying level of self-worth that they're working towards. That's why sometimes they have all these different degrees, right? Oh my God, I am like certified heaven over here. Like I can just knock them out. But this allowed me to really took a step back and get centered and get present and get intentional with
Yeah.
my practices and get intentional with the life and the legacy that I want to live for my family, with my family. And how do you live the damn legacy right now
Yeah.
and not wait? Because I had this waiting, and I hear this from women as well. Like, oh, when I retire, I'm going to do this. When I get to this level, or when I get this degree, or when I get this certification, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
There's no more waiting. You get to enjoy life. You get to bring the joy, to use your phrase,
Yes.
now, and you get to enjoy the journey. And I thank God every day for that nurse because that conversation shifted my perspective. That changed my lens. So now I got to enjoy the journey. Otherwise, I wouldn't have enjoyed the journey in there because it was a hard one. But
Yeah.
it was one that I meant to go through that shifted my perspective and shifted the way I coach someone else, that I can help someone or I can empower someone. So yeah.
It's amazing. And like on this, I love what you're saying about living your legacy because it's true, right? Like, and things are uncertain.
Mhm.
So, now is the time to be creating a life and a business that we love. I'm curious about like when we're talking about burnt out
Mhm.
women or men,
Mhm.
business owners, like what do you think are the signs of that? Like,
Mhm.
how does someone, I feel like, and I know for me, it was like, it just becomes so normal. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and we just see it. Everybody else is doing it. They're
Mhm.
busy, they're distracted, they're overextended, they're stressed out,
Mhm.
they're physically unwell. How do you, like, how does somebody get from being burnt
Mhm.
out to getting help from you?
Yeah.
Like, what's that tipping point?
That's a very interesting question because when you think about burnout, it can be different for all of us, right? Because we're all unique beings.
Yeah.
Right? Some of us can manage stress really well. And there's positive stress as well, right? There's eustress, the stress that kind of gets you to take your business to the next level, like that fire you have. And there's positive stress, but then there's also that stress that starts to impact you from a health perspective, right? You start to, like, at least for me, you start to feel, how do you say it? Like the energy that I would have would not be sustainable, like not being able to have the ability to sleep, right? You're thinking about this, right? Not being able to follow through. You start dropping the ball on things that typically you would be able to kind of keep it going. You start to drop the ball. You don't have the passion that you've had before because you're not taking care of yourself in that sense. For me, it's just I started to lose some of those joys that I had before. And I was a high performing burnout person, I would say.
Yeah.
Because now I'm thinking about
Yeah.
it, I would still do the stuff, but
Which I think is
yeah,
sometimes worse
it's
because nobody else sees it. They're like,
yeah,
she's actually fine because I don't know what you had to do, but like meet your budgets, do your targets, travel, do your presentations. Like they don't want anything to be wrong with you, right? Because they want you to keep performing at
exactly.
that level. So
But
they're like, you're good. Don't worry about it. Just go take the weekend
but
off.
I love that you talked about it because I didn't even think about it. While we're talking, the high performing burnout comes into mind because with
Yeah.
us, we cover it up with all the things that we're doing. But at the end of the day, I would say it's more of that overwhelming feeling, like your brain is just like moving, going, but you're not really getting anything there and you don't see the output as you're looking at it, right? You're like
Yeah.
running on a treadmill, but you're not going anywhere, if that means anything that to the
Yes.
audience. So I would say from a woman, if I'm working with a woman, it's more of the conversation that they're having sometimes with themselves or the lack of things they're doing around the things they used to care about. Right? Not taking the time to spend with your family because you're trying to do all of this here, feeling exhausted, feeling like lack of energy, momentum, passion. You start to fizzle out at certain things. And then you start to, how would you say, certain things get your attention and other things you just like start dropping the ball on. For me is what's pivotal was work, right? I couldn't drop the ball there, but I was dropping the ball at home, right? Showing up
Yeah.
on the weekend and I was trying to do everything, but at the same time, I wasn't there for certain things. So I would just not have the energy to show up for certain things.
So I'm curious when women come to you in this, or any, I keep saying women, but any entrepreneurs in this space, like how do you, I imagine it's like a building process, like a
Hmm.
strategy process to help them, reevaluate things. Like
Hmm.
I know we don't have, I'm sure it's lengthy, but like how do you
Uh-huh.
start with them and how do you help them really shift things?
Yeah. So the first step, and I think it's the first step for a lot of things, and this could go for a man, woman, or child, right,
Yeah.
is to help them with a level of self-awareness. Because a lot of time when I'm talking to high performers or very driven women or entrepreneurs or men, sometimes we just become a standard that we have set, and we may not even be self-aware that we are operating at an unsustainable pace that will lead to crash and burn in the sense that you may not be able to make up for, right? The health get a challenge, right? You notice that your health is being impacted. So the first thing I do is just have a really open conversation and ask some questions about and really get that person centered and get really clear as to what truly is important to them. What are some of their goals? What are some of their dreams? How do they envision this? What is the vision that they have?
And would you say, and I know it's
Mhm.
different for everybody, but like, is that easy for people to identify or is it tough sometimes?
It can be very tough because again, our identity, I do a lot of work with my clients as well, is to get clear on what their blueprint is and what their identities are and what kind of belief systems that they have built for themselves. Because a lot of times, if you have built a belief system, and in the culture we're in right now, Adrian, we know about 10x this, right? You got a hustle culture. You've always got to be on this. You got to do hard, 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 right? Do the
Yep.
hard gets easy, all of those things. That's what the environment is. A lot of time we start to create belief systems that's built around that. And we think it's our belief system, but the reality, it's the environment belief systems. It's what people have shared with you. So there is root work that needs to happen to help that person to really unpack what is truly a belief that is serving them and what is truly a belief that is causing them to live a life that's not sustainable. Because what I tell my clients, what is I find out from them, not for me to tell them what their goals or their dreams are. I want my clients to share with me, what is that thing that you don't want to share with anyone, but it's on your heart.
Yeah.
You get to live the life you want now. You get to do everything. You don't, like, I hear a lot of the frustration I hear from women, and I work primarily with women.
Okay.
Is they're trying their darndest to do the corporate side of work, build my business and have a family. And they're getting this, like, I only can choose one path. And my passion is, you don't have to choose a path. You need to choose how you will play and how you're going to create harmony in both paths. And the first part of any harmony and anything starts with having clarity as to what is most important foundationally to you. And then once we have that clarity, then we have to start looking at what is the belief system that you need to install within you that's going to help you to get there. That's keeping in mind the boundaries that you need to set, right? Because there's a lot of work, right? You got to know the boundaries that you need to set yourself. And what do you need to believe for yourself? What action do we need to take? And then we need to start building that up to the person you're working towards becoming.
Yeah.
So once we get that identity, that blueprint, the alignment where it needs to be, and that person starts to see I use some of the things I learned, because you have to start to change their lens, their perspective. Then we can start doing some of the work that needs to happen around the emotional piece of it. Because you said there's a lot, like I think you mentioned EQ.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of emotional intelligence that goes into running a business. There's a lot of emotional intelligence that goes to scaling your career. So really getting in connection with your emotions is the next thing I really work with these folks in. And getting comfortable with your body and the voice, the whispers that comes with it. Because your body knows when it's time for you to pause, when it's time for you to slow down, when it's time for you to speed up. But a lot of time we don't listen to it because we have so much noise. So getting the time and getting intentional and getting a process in play, habits. I do a lot of work as well on habits, installing the right habits that's going to allow you to go through the ups and downs, because you and I know running a business, scaling your career comes with ups and downs, and it can be messy.
Millions every single day.
And anyone who tells you that's just easy breezy, you're just going to 10x this, you're going to do that, is selling you a whole bunch of, shenanigans.
I couldn't agree more.
But knowing how to navigate that, knowing how to ride the wave, and those are the principles I help my clients with, right? Strategies, so that you can show up as that badass you want to be, but actually truly be the badass.
Yeah.
Because you have systems in place that's going to allow you to get back, right? And systems, I think, is such a critical piece, because if you have a system like we were talking about before, if you get on the podcast, there's systems you can put into place to make sure you're prepared, right?
Yeah.
You can get your body, you can get this. So if someone taps you on the shoulder, you're ready to go. And there's systems you can put into place in your business as well to make your business run more seamlessly, so that you are running your business and your business is not running you. And the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is that you get to create your dream. You get to do this. You get to identify, what does that look like for Adrienne? What does the ultimate life looks like? What's her values? What's her passion? What's her non-negotiable? And what's the financial abundance and freedom that Adrienne wants? We get to decide all of that. You get to decide for yourself, right? Because it takes decisive action. You get to put that out there, then you get to build it.
Totally. And I would add, since you were
Yes.
using my name and I was taking it to heart, you don't, for me, and you can tell me if you agree or not, like, you don't just decide it also one time. Like, I just
No.
went through a very self-reflective, well, I'm reflecting all the time, but this summer I
Mhm.
was like, okay, like now it's a point where I really need to pause and
Mm.
I changed a lot of things, and it's so
Yes.
I did it anyways, all this to say you do it over and over and it changes. My
Yes.
values change, my priorities change. I learned this and that change, like it's constant.
Adrian, we are 150% in alignment. Something I talk to my clients, this is something that part of my program, we do it every 90 days
Yeah.
because you've got to think about it from, if I bring my corporate parts in there, right? So agile, I use agile methodology a lot when I work with my clients. And in a business, you look at the goals, you go out 3 years, right? They know where the company is headed, right? But then they reverse engineer it down to 2 years. Where are we going to be in 2 years? Where are we going to be in 1 year? Where are we going to be in a year? Then they bring it down into small bite-sized chunks, sprints. And then they work at it and then they reflect, they figure out, they learn, they iterate, they shift, and then they look again, reflect again,
Yeah.
learn, shift, and then you get the momentum where you're crushing the numbers in your business. Your family is happy, your kids are happy, you're living the life, and you take a moment, you finish another sprint, take a break, recover,
Yeah, and I loved what you said
review.
earlier
Mhm.
too, like, and it fits in perfectly right here is like just being open to the information, right? Because there can
Yes.
be a tendency to be like, well, that didn't go as I thought it was going to. And instead of being like, well, that was a failure, or, I used to see things very like black and
Mhm.
white, right or wrong, good or bad,
Mhm.
success, failure. And instead it's like information, like, oh, that actually, maybe that customer group is actually not
Mhm.
my customer group. Wow, isn't that good information? I'm not going to target my message at them anymore. If I'm going to target it at these people who, psychographically, demographically, in terms of how
Mm.
much they spend, are right for me.
Mm. So good. So good. Yes, just information. Get detached from what it is that you're learning. Get detached from it, take the emotions out of it. What is the lesson? How can we use this to take it to the next level? It's so important.
And I hear you also saying, and it was a big lesson that I had to learn. I was in the corporate world for a long time, and I
Hmm.
was kind of under this, like they're in charge of my career,
Oh yeah.
like I mean, obviously, I was working hard and I had the goals that I had, but there at some point something
Hmm.
shifted and I was like, no, I don't want you to be in charge of my career. I want to be in charge of my career and my life. And that's where that balance came in more for me. Like, and
Hmm.
that's just reminded me of, your conversation with your boss, but like that us taking back that power is interesting to me.
It's so, so interesting. And I love that conversation because I see it a lot with whether it's a man or woman or a child, whomever, that we tend to give away our power
Right.
a lot. And every time we go into that blaming or complaining, we're giving away your power because you're blaming this person. That you mean you're giving them the power that something didn't fall through because they didn't do this or because I didn't get the right opportunity or because of this or because of that. When the reality is, and I know this is something hard for people to realize, that we are the difference is how we respond to what happens to us because things happen to all of us. Both of us can have the same situation and one person responded one way and another person responded a different way. The results are going to be different. So we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond to it. And I know it's not easy, but if you want to have power, you want to have more control in your life, and you don't want to be burnout, you need to look at how you're responding. And a lot of that starts with the emotions, right? And you have to really pull back to see back in when you were younger, where did you learn how to respond this way? Is it serving you? Is it, if it's not serving you, taking the time to slow down and figure out a different response is going to drastically shift your whole life.
And that you can, right? Like for a
You
long
can.
time, I believed like, this is the way I operate. Other people operate differently, and it sounds so ridiculous to me now. But when I was like, oh, I could actually change this. And it took a lot of practice. It's very uncomfortable at
It
first, but
is. It
but you can
is.
change it.
You can. And that's where it comes with working with a coach. I think is so powerful.
Yes.
Having someone to have that conversation, someone who can really push back on you and help you kind of look back in the mirror. Look at what actions you can take. Because a lot of times I've noticed that and it's not our fault because a lot of our imprinting, right? We may not be comfortable making decisions. But when it comes to your life, Adrian, that's one thing you need to own it
Yes.
because you only got one life. I haven't met anyone yet who have come back and tell me about, the other side. So I'm going to live this one. This is the one life you get, and you get to do it the way you want. And it's okay. I love what you talked about. If things shift, welcome it because there's a
Yeah.
lesson there. There's something happening. If something is not working, and you just continue, you probably most likely it's not going to continue to work. Listen to the lessons and not failure is a gift. And I know we say that all the time, but when you really connect the dots, I think it was Steve Jobs who talked about that. You can only connect the dots looking back. And I love that quote.
Me too.
So correct. Because when you're in it, you know this, Adrian, when you're in it, you don't see the light.
No.
It's murky. It's nasty. You don't see it. But if you trust that you have the right process and you trust yourself, most of the time you come out, it's like, wow, that was a blessing. And I can say right now that it was a blessing. That year, which was one of my toughest year, I won President's Club. And for anyone that's in a corporate, that's like a big
Yes,
deal.
it is.
While I was going through the most difficult time within my life, but that was the time that I really centered and I had systems in place. I developed systems and structures for myself and I prioritize myself. So I tell my clients, when you're going through hard times, know that sometimes will allow you to strive even higher
Yeah.
because you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Things
You're
get
number
very
one.
clear.
Very clear. Very clear. And you don't waste time because all about really, time I think is just a construct, right? That we
Yes.
all have. We all get the same amount of time. It's just how do we leverage it? How do we prioritize it? And how do we focus it in?
Absolutely. And I wanted to just jump back for a sec too, and just to the point you made about working with a coach, because
Mm-hmm.
I just think coaches, it's amazing when you take something to like an independent third party, like you as a
Mm-hmm.
coach are looking at someone very objectively. And as
Mm-hmm.
someone going to a coach, you can just really lay everything on the
Mm-hmm.
table. Friends and family might have a certain agenda or,
Mm-hmm.
want a certain outcome. A coach is very objective and really can look at things in a different way and help you see possibilities that may
Mm-hmm.
not have
Mm-hmm.
been even just they're not even on your radar.
Exactly. Hmm. No, I agree with you. I think sometimes we tend to, again, you got to look at your lens. You got to be able to shift the perspective, change your lens. And a coach brings a different perspective sometimes, or they can help you clean that lens so you happen to see the big picture that's out there. And just like anything in life, for me, I invest in coaches. I think a coach that doesn't invest in a coach, watch out,
Yeah.
right? So I have coaches like all over the place, right? In fact, right after this, I have one of my coaching calls that I'm excited to jump on because it just allows me to continue to level up, right? And thrive in anything that I'm doing. But just like anyone else, I'll tell anyone who's looking for a coach, do your homework, right? You want a coach who have life experiences. You want a coach that can bring lessons that they have learned, that have walked the path so you can avoid those pit holes, right? That you can avoid some of the blind spots and save
Yes.
yourself some time, right? Save yourself decades sometimes, right? By working with the right person. And that's what I do. If I find a coach that is where I want to go to and they're ready there and they're living it, my gosh, they can help me get there faster. So that would just be a tip there for anyone who's looking for a coach. Make sure you do your legwork, do your homework, that they have the experience that would be able to help you get there and that they have walked the path. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And kind of like the next step to that,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of as we wrap things up here, we've already kind of said this in our whole time together, but if somebody's
Mm-hmm.
been listening to all of this
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure I'm burnt
Hmm.
out. Like when Felicia's
Hmm.
talking, I think that's
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
What would you say to that person listening right now?
I would tell that person to trust your voice, that voice that's telling you this. Listen to that voice. That voice is trying to save your life, because burnout can look different for everyone. And we talked about this, Adrian. Some
Hmm.
people are high performing burnouts, right? They're
Yeah.
high performing. It looks like everything is well. And then when they burn, they burn. I mean, they burn hard.
Yeah.
Meaning, just like I did, I was high performing in the sense that I was just outwardly going and doing it. But when I dropped, it was in the hospital drop. And other people have similar experiences. And some people may not be this way. And I don't want anyone to have the experience that you have to be in a hospital. So if you see signs that you are starting to, you know, getting, you can't concentrate, right? The clarity is not where it used to be. You're starting to get anxiety. You can't sleep. Listen to your body. And sometimes as simple as just taking a moment and break. Take some vacation. It's okay. The US, we barely take vacation. Take some time away and infuse some intentionality, infuse some joy. Like I shared with you, Adrian, when we did our interview together, I go for walks every single morning. And that is a habit I started when I was in Dallas
Yeah.
because it was a non negotiable. If I was going to show up and be there, I needed clarity. And that was my moment to have clarity and walk and being in nature and knowing that it's bigger than me.
I love it.
So those little things you can do within your life, like your intentional cards, right? Have a focus, right? Journal. There's so many things you could do, but number one is listen to yourself and lean in on that voice and reach out. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to anyone, but just reach out and know that you're not in this alone, right? We're all on this journey of life, just like that nurse talked about, right? It may look different. Our journeys may look different, but we're aligned. We're all on this. We're all in this together.
Absolutely. And Felicia, if people want to follow you, work with you, learn more about you, how can they connect with you? And we will have it all on the show notes, but I want you to let them know right now.
Sure. Sure. I would say one of the best ways to connect with me, you can go to Felecia Etienne, FELECIAETIENNE.com. You can go there and then you can shoot me a note. We can connect there. I'm also on LinkedIn, so you can find me. Everything is my name. I kept it
It's
simple.
so good.
Everything is my name there. And I think I gave you a free resource so they can also take advantage of the free resource that
Awesome.
I provide. That way you can get a starting point. And part of that free resource, you get to have a free call with me where we go over your results and help you to kind of implement a strategy that can help you to level up in your business and life so that you can be on the road to building that limitless life plus that legacy that we're all here to do and live behind for the ones we love.
So amazing. I can't thank you enough because this is it, right? This is the journey, and you sharing this is incredibly powerful, maybe more powerful than you even realize. And if there's anything else that you want to
Mhm.
add, any you kind of just inspired us, but if you have anything you wanted to add or anything that's coming up for you or that we missed, I want to give you an opportunity to do that now.
Yeah. So the first thing, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to share this with the audience. And I'll just tell everyone who's listening to know that you are strong enough. You have every single thing you need to navigate the ups and downs that comes within life and within your business. And we don't realize it, but all those things that you have gone through in your life that you may look back and say, why me? Why did I have this struggle? It was there for a reason. Connect those dots and you'll see how powerful you are, and just lean in and show up. And remember this: when you hit a roadblock, say, what is the lesson? I get to shift, I get to grow. What can I take back from this? Right? So look out for those and don't let anything hold you back. You got this.
Felicia, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you again for the opportunity. You're awesome.
Thank you for listening. May some of the wisdom shared here inspire your most intentional living. For more information about this episode, this podcast, intentional living, and my work in the world, please visit mayyouKnowJoy.com. You can also find my May You Know Joy and Seeds of Intention cards there, and my book, Intentional Days. You'll also find details for the Intentional Days membership, where you can gain access to a thriving community of intentional souls and lots of regular inspiration. I've got you covered. Until next time, I wish you great joy and many intentional days.